Fantasy Rap
with Austin and Ozzy.
Oh, I just love those boys.
Hey everyone, this is Fantasy Rap, and I'm your host Ozzy.
And I'm your co-host Austin.
You can find us on fantasyrap.com. That is fantasywrap.com. Hey everybody, welcome to week 13 of the fantasy season, and we are going to start off with P's Picks. Hey everybody, and welcome to P's Picks. Hi P. How are you, Sutton?
You good?
Yeah? Do you have your bunnies?
Yeah.
Yeah? Are they going to help you choose?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, today we've got the Seahawks, and we've got the Cowboys from last night's game. Which one would you like to talk about, Sutton? You want to talk about the Cowboys? Okay. And what's the segment called? What are we doing? Is this P's Picks?
Yeah.
Can you say that?
Pee-pee.
Yeah. Do you like doing P's Picks?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's an understatement, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Well, can you look up and say, I'll see you later?
Yeah.
Bye-bye. And you have it. There you have it. P's Picks. She chose the Dallas Cowboys. And let's get to the right information here instead of last week's, what she was drawing on. And from Thursday Night Football, it was a pretty good game last night.
Yeah, I didn't watch a whole lot of it, just some clips here and there, just because, seeing I've got Geno in one of my dynasty leagues as my superflex quarterback, so pretty happy there. And then on that team, I also have JSN, who had a good game, and then,
pretty good game.
Ferguson as well.
Oh, so, yeah, Ferguson had a very nice game.
Yep, so I got like 68, almost 69 points out of those three guys.
Yeah.
Not quite what you had.
Yeah, I playing against Q, and I've got Metcalf and CD Lamb.
Yeah.
And got 70 points out of those two, so it's going to be might not be that close of a game. But looking at how the Cowboys did, Dak was 29 of 41 for 299 yards and 3 touchdowns, 7 rushes, 23 yards.
Yeah,
pretty darn bad. Good game.
Yeah, no picks, no giveaways, I guess, on his part. But it was just weird that this Cowboys defense that can really shut people out, didn't against a team that had been, I wouldn't say struggling so much in the Seahawks, but they just hadn't, they haven't been
they've been struggling
last year.
Yeah.
So, for them to come out and just kind of, have this explosion, like they did last night against the Cowboys defense. So.
And Bland.
Oh, yeah. It was good. Well, DK Metcalf said he's not from this planet.
Yeah, but it wasn't only DK Metcalf. It was pretty much anyone who ran a route that Bland was covering. Yeah. And he looked bland. Yeah, I mean, he looked suspect at best.
He said, like, the stat, he gave up like 150-something yards and a touchdown on...
Was that in the first quarter?
I don't know, but...
Because 74 came on the one play, or 73 or whatever. Mm-hmm. He went for what looked like the pick in front of Metcalf, and Metcalf was behind him, and the safety was over. And
maybe he's trying to really break the record. That record, so that's his for probably ever.
Yeah. Yeah, I sat there and I watched it, and as soon as Metcalf caught that ball, I'm like, there is no one in the world catching him. Mm-hmm. He is, you remember that play where he ran the guy down on an interception and tackled him at like the 3 or 4 yard line. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the guy's got amazing speed, especially for the size that he is. So moving on, we had Pollard catching 3 of 4 targets for 15 yards, 20 rushes, 68 yards, and a touchdown. Not great numbers.
Better than what you were getting out of him a couple weeks ago. He's been, fantasy-wise, been better as of late.
But 3.4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, all of 15 yards on 3 catches, so 5 yards a catch.
Yeah, and that was kind of his thing last year when Zeke was still there, was he was getting all of the receiving work, and that's what made him so good last year. You know, that, and he was ripping, he'd have 9 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown last
Right.
year. So, yeah, like, I mean, we've talked about it. I just think he's not a true, number one.
Right.
Definitely, that's why they were, looking at Derrick Henry. There were some rumors going around that they were looking at, like, trying to get Derrick Henry from Tennessee.
Right.
And, which that might end up happening in the offseason anyways because Henry's a free agent. And, he may look elsewhere, but
Yeah, I don't know that I'd want him in that offense. I mean, they need that quickness, I think.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion.
Well, Derrick Henry's the perfect Mike McCarthy running back. Slow, just really pound the ball and control the clock.
Slow
and
like Mike is.
Let the other team slowly work their way back into a game,
Yep,
and then have to rely on a quarterback to win it for you late.
Yeah,
that kind
yeah. It was kind of at watching that game. It was kind of unfortunate to see Seattle not able to move the ball at the end because they had been able to, but Dallas dialed up the pressure, and I mean. Gino had about 0.04 seconds, it seemed like, before someone was in his face. And, I mean, he couldn't do anything at that point. And although I'm surprised by the fact that they didn't run any short routes on those, that they're blitzing. And you should have a hot receiver that does a quick little slant or something. They didn't.
Yeah.
They were all longer pass plays, and I just didn't get it. So next up we had CeeDee Lamb, 17 targets, 12 catches, 116 yards, and a touchdown, 2 rushes for 30 yards. I really, going into the game, I thought he'd catch 2 touchdowns, and he came close.
Yeah.
He had that one across the middle that he jumped over the one guy and came down at about the 1.5 yard line. Thought he was going to catch that one, or get that one, and then they had another couple of plays where they tried to get him the ball.
Yep.
So, I mean,
he's just good.
Yeah,
It's really not much you can say about him.
No. Moving on, we had Brandon Cooks, who was 4 catches on 4 targets, 45 yards and a touchdown.
He's been getting a little more involved. Had the big week, I think 2 weeks ago. So he's been getting a little more involved. You're seeing, I mean, not this game, but that game that he blew up had a long completion or touchdown. So kind of what he was in his prime, because he's definitely a little on the older side of a wide receiver. But yeah, he's been staying involved enough, catching touchdown. He's been, if you've been in a spot, he's been a decent flex play for the last 2-3 weeks. So,
True.
Yeah.
And then we had Ferguson, ex-Wisconsin tight end, 6 catches on 8 targets, 77 yards and a touchdown. that was a nice touchdown catch.
Yeah.
And it was right in front of Jamal Adams, and he and Adams were really going at it after one of the plays where it was by the sidelines. And it was funny listening to Herb Street, because Herb Street is like, that's one dude you don't want to mess with. Is Ferguson.
Yeah.
He's a big kid.
Yeah.
And he did not back down, and he made that catch right in front of him for the touchdown, and he just kind of glared at him for a second.
Well, I saw the one clip where Ferguson caught the ball and then ran forward a couple yards and then got hit, and I think Adams might have been the one that put a hit on him, or, and Ferguson's down, and Adams pops up and he's over him.
I was surprised that we didn't see a flag.
And then you see Ferguson get up, and he did the first down and walked through.
Yeah, exactly,
through
exactly.
Adams, so,
You're telling me what? Oh, I think I got the first down, and we're winning the game.
Yep.
So moving on, we have our picks of the week. At QB, the top 6 listed are Tua, Dak, obviously, Mahomes, Hurts, Lawrence, and Howell. And I am going to go with Stroud.
Yep.
And
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, in my 30-plus year league, my opponent has Stroud, and I hope he does okay because I've got him in. Well, actually, I don't even know if I need him to score that much to still beat Q.
Yeah, that's true.
So I'd rather have him not do as well and take my chances against Q. Nothing against you, Q, but when I've got 70 points out of 2 players and an expected 195 total, and you're at 124 or something, I'm not overly concerned. Now we've seen me lose 205 to 202, so
It can happen.
But playing against Denver's defense, while they're looking better, I still think Stroud is a solid play. I mean, he's second in the league in passing yardage to Howell. He's one of the top
Crazy
ranked
too, that Sam Howell is number 1 in the league.
in passing yards. Yeah,
It's just crazy.
well, that just shows that they're usually behind in having to score.
True.
Throw the ball.
True.
But C.J. Stroud, I mean, they haven't necessarily been playing from behind as much. He just throws the ball really well, really accurately, and has been doing
He's
it.
got the playmakers. You saw Tank Dell has been very good. They had called back that 70-yard catch due to an illegal shift. So and then missed him on another one. So I think Stroud and Dell both missed out on an extra 137 or 138 yards last week, and that one would have been a big touchdown. So
Right.
yeah, a lot of points even left on the field there. So
Yep.
yeah, like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
He's been playing.
Yeah,
Like I said, I think he's obviously going to win Rookie of the Year, and could potentially double up and get MVP as well.
He
he's
could.
He's been just
He could. If
crazy
they,
good.
I would say that if they make the playoffs, he's got a good chance of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and he keeps playing like he is.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's near the top, and
I think they've got Tennessee twice here at the end of the year because Derrick Henry has Houston. I remembered that. So, and Tennessee, if you're gonna beat them, you throw on them. So you
Right.
should have 2 huge, probably really good weeks there to end the season as well. So yeah, there's a chance he finishes out just as strong, if not stronger than he has been.
yeah,
So,
that could be surprising.
yeah.
Although I don't want my
Well, yeah.
opponent to do well, and
True. Yeah. So
happens,
yep. So I'm gonna go Brock Purdy.
and I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep on taking that every time you give it to me.
Yep, and then against Philly. I mean, Philly is. I think they might be the best matchup for wide receivers right now, which is I mean, we saw that barn burner against Buffalo.
Yeah.
So you can throw on them, and I believe everybody's healthy, all the pass catchers for San Francisco, and that's been the recipe for Purdy having big games is having everybody there. So
Right.
I mean, should be that's going to be a fun game to watch. I feel.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, San Francisco's defense
Is that a
has been playing little
3:25
better.
game?
I don't remember what time it's at. I think a game got flexed. I remember if it was this week or next week.
I thought those were next week.
I think it's next week, but yeah. So maybe it
Actually,
could
I think it's 2 weeks from now
Okay.
that we were talking about the
Yeah.
15th, 16th ish.
Yep. So yeah, but like I said, Purdy, he's had huge games, and it comes on the back of CMC and
Right.
Aiyuk
I mean,
and Debo, and then George Kittle in there too. So
right. I mean, CMC allows. Well, I mean, it's partially how they run their offense, but you think about having CMC and taking pressure off of a quarterback because they can't. They have to think that CMC is going to run every time.
Yeah.
And yet you've got Debo and Aiyuk and Kittle, and you've got CMC bleeding out of the backfield.
Yeah.
I mean, like we've said before, I mean, if that isn't the best QB gig in football,
Yeah.
I don't know what is.
Yeah. No, that's about the best situation you can ask
Other
for.
than maybe Miami.
True.
I
That
mean,
too, yes.
you've got Tyreek, who is just explosive, and you've got Waddle, who can catch the ball anywhere, and then if you've got Achane playing, the same type of thing. I mean, it's crazy.
Yep.
Some of these teams and the weapons that they've got.
Yep.
So moving on to running back, we've got CMC at the top yet again. We've got Kyron Williams. We've got Pacheco.
I mean, they hit last week on it. But.
Yeah, and the last time that I predicted a running back was going to do well against the Packers, what happened?
I don't remember.
I think I went Darrell Henderson and said he was a play against the Packers, and all of a sudden Green Bay had a
defense,
a run defense.
Yeah.
You know, they've got a good pass defense, and which is funny because without Jair, without Stokes, without Rasul Douglas, they're starting a 7th-round rookie. And
did I see that Stokes is designated to return?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on top of it, you've been without Savage for a few weeks. So you're and Rudy Ford.
I'm not sure about Ford.
I mean, you've been playing D-backs and safeties that really haven't, they haven't been starters up until necessity kicked in, and for some reason they're playing out of their minds.
Yeah.
Although you're getting good pressure on the quarterbacks, and if you can create run defense, and they have been with some of the guys that they've, the younger guys that they've got, Devontae and Devontae Wyatt,
Yep.
and Carl Brooks.
That sounds right. Like I say, they looked really good in that game, but they were playing against who I can't remember, Rippon. Rippon, who got, I think right after that week or the next week got cut, got released.
Oh, did he get released?
Because they went out and picked up Carson Wentz.
Okay, I didn't know that they dropped him.
I think they totally released him. So,
gotcha.
So I got Pacheco.
So moving on, we've got ETN, we've got Mostert, and we've got Rashad White. So I am going to go with Randy Moss. No, I'm going with Moss at Tennessee with JT out. It's what he did earlier in the year when JT was out.
Yep.
He definitely is. I think it's a top 5 situation this week for him.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's, normally the better half of their defense is their run defense, but we've seen games where they give up a lot of yards.
Right.
And Zach Moss is, that actually might have even been, I don't know if I'm remembering it right, but I think one of those really big weeks that he had, I think was against Tennessee.
Yeah, I think so too.
And that might have been like that first or second week that JT had actually come back as well early. So.
When everyone dropped or set Moss on the bench and he went off for 26 or
I think that
30
might, if
points
I'm remembering
or something.
right, that was against Tennessee. So he's he's a guy who on Buffalo was him and Singletary were very frustrating because that was a committee that neither one of them seemed to. It almost seemed like neither one of them wanted to be the top back.
Right.
It was just No,
you take it.
It was like, all right, this week Singletary, he looked good last week, and then Singletary gets 7 carries, and Zach Moss would get 15, and Moss would only put up 45 yards.
If that,
But whatever he's doing.
And unfortunately, in my 30-year-plus league, I'm playing against Zach Moss too. So maybe this will be that the bad vibes type of thing. It's like saying
psychology.
Yeah, it's like saying, hey, this guy has not missed a field goal. And I was because I also was playing against Aubrey.
Yeah, I did too. He put up 16 points in our.
He put up 19 in ours. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, just say it. He hasn't missed a field goal. Oh, that one was so close. Oh, that one was kind of close too.
Yep.
But he didn't miss again.
Nope.
So.
Yeah. So I like that. I'm gonna go with Bijan against the Jets. Jets defense has not been very good. We'll see if maybe spirits are better in New York because Rodgers. I know the chances of him actually playing are not, not that great, especially if they're if they
What do you know?
I don't know.
He wants to play. He wants to show that he is a better, more physical specimen than anybody in the world.
There's
I mean, he's
probably some
already
of
the
that.
smartest guy. He knows more about anything like drug-wise than you do.
Well, yeah, I haven't gone on any darkness retreats, so.
I'm thinking about it. Thinking about locking myself in the basement for a couple of months.
Yeah, there you go.
See if my wife will feed me. Yeah, I like Bijan.
Eat on some of those cans of dog food you got down there.
Oh, yum.
Yeah,
I think I'd rather have the kibble.
Yeah, there you go.
So take less of a chance than God knows what's in that other stuff.
Yeah.
I like Bijan.
Yeah, he had a week, kind of, finally, where you're like, this is, especially if you were one of those people that drafted him, top 5 pick.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah. So, but it is Arthur Smith, and there's a chance that you could see, Cordero Patterson back in the backfield a lot,
Tyler Algier
getting carries,
or they decide to throw it a lot.
Yeah. So
it's rid of the Pitts.
Yep. So, but I mean, Bijan, again, Arthur Smith, he hates fantasy football. Like, he's come out and said it, like, and there's that conspiracy that he's doing it just to piss off us fantasy football guys. Or
if you've got
players.
Nothing better to do with your life than piss off fantasy football
I don't know
managers,
how you keep your job.
Right. I mean,
if you
your main focus
Yeah.
is to coach a football team.
Yeah. Yeah, you get fired immediately if you're on the 2-yard line and you don't hand it off to Bijan. And after the game, they go, "Why didn't you do it?" And he's like, "Well,
screw fantasy players."
I knew there was a bunch of fantasy football players in the stands. He'd get fired on the spot. So hopefully, I don't think Arthur Smith's a dumb guy, but
we'll find out.
Yeah, in Atlanta, he had the huge week. They won. There's correlation there, obviously. Exactly. You'd let your best players do what they do, and you win.
I've never understood that.
Yeah, and I think Atlanta's, aren't they kind of right on the bubble for playoffs?
Possibly.
I think they're probably kind of right in the middle there. So
yeah, they're right. They might be right behind the Packers.
Yeah, so this would be a good
the Packers
week.
got a big
Matchup this week.
Yeah, big help from Dallas last night.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, Atlanta come in and put a whooping on the Jets with Bijan. Like I said, he's caught a touchdown. I think he rushed a touchdown. Rushed for a touchdown as well. So hopefully it's a trend of more things to come as they get later into the season. So
right. So moving on to our wide receivers, we've got Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, who we all know where he ended up. A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Keenan McCardle.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Keenan Allen, Tank Dell, who I'm hoping doesn't do well because guess whose team Tank is on?
Yeah.
So I am going to go with my own player. I would go with my own player every time with the running backs, but CMC always gets listed as the top running back. So I'm going to go.
Could have went Stevenson this week.
Yeah, I'm hoping he does well. Yeah, I'm hoping he does well.
I was looking. It was between him and Bijan.
Okay. So. Well, you should have gone. You usually do well when you pick my players. So I'm going to go out on a limb and choose one of my own players and go with Jaylen Waddle. Mm-hmm. And he plays at Washington. He had a really, really nice week last week. 114 yards or 104 yards or something.
Yeah, 14, because that was one of those that it was all in the first half, it seemed like.
No, well, the majority of it was. And then all of a sudden, he went on a spree right toward the end of the game, I think it was, where it was pass to Waddle, pass to Waddle, pass to Waddle. And he picked up like 40 or so yards right toward the end of the game, which really helped me out. So
he's good. And against Washington, they should, with that defense, or Washington's defense, do
they have a defense?
They put something.
They're one of the worst. Yeah, well,
they get rid of Chase Young and Montez Sweat. They're definitely, like you said, I do think Howell is their guy. They just need to help him up front, protect him a little better.
Yeah.
And then they need to go out and help rebuild
what they tore down.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. Although both of those guys were right near the end of their contracts, right? Are they both one? Yeah, I think they're both one. They were both 1 year rentals.
Yeah, because I think Sweat, that was that situation with Chicago that he wanted a big extension, essentially. Or
he said, I'm not necessarily going to sign one because I don't have to.
Yeah.
But then they must have said, here's enough money to make you one of, if not the highest paid edge rusher, and he jumped at it. I mean, who wouldn't,
Exactly.
But then Chase Young is probably just a 1 year rental. So you think about that and you say, okay, they weren't, they would have had to give up a ton of money to keep them there. So maybe it is better to go back into the draft and then figure out where you are and then sign pieces. And there's no saying that they can't re-sign Chase Young.
That's true. Yeah. But for what they have on the field now, Miami's probably going to put up a lot of points.
Probably not 70.
There's a chance, too, that Washington makes it kind of interesting.
Right.
We've seen...
Which would be good for Waddle and Tyreek Hill and because they may, if they don't run it all the time.
Turns into a Mostert and Jeff Wilson. And
right.
I don't know if Ahmed is healthy.
No, he's on IR.
Oh, he is? Okay.
Yeah, I believe he...
So, you get Mostert and Jeff Wilson...
as soon as we said Ahmed as a pickup, as a waiver wire pickup, he went on IR.
Nice.
So
don't listen to us.
Yeah. Like we know that he's going to get injured.
Yeah. So and then I'm gonna stack. I'm gonna go Brandon Aiyuk against Philly. He's had some pretty big games. I think he only had like two receptions last week, but he housed one. So
it was a downish week for him catching the ball.
But he still was able to, like I said, I think
because Purdy had a horrible game. He scored me like 8 or 10 points.
Yeah, I have him in my other fantasy dynasty as well. So wasn't too happy with that. But again, the matchups are really good against Philadelphia. I mean, again, you wouldn't think it, but it is. Which should be another high-scoring, hopefully, shootout, and that bodes well for all the pieces involved. So
that could be a very, 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 like you said, very fun game to watch.
Yeah, and I was just looked at Aiyuk's player profile on Yahoo, and I can't remember exactly, but like this week could match or beat his career best for single-season yardage. So maybe they'll be looking at that, trying to get him involved to get him, get them up over that number. So we'll see.
So do you even know who Keenan McCardle is?
No, I know who Keenan Thompson is.
Keenan McCardle was a receiver back in the day.
Okay,
that's why
never heard the name.
You'll have to look it up. He was a pretty good receiver.
Okay,
which is that's why it popped into my mind, Keenan Allen, because I only wrote down Keenan. And I'm like, duh. So moving on to the tight ends, we've got none other than Travis Kelce, Taysom Hill, who always seems to be there, Kittle, Laporta, Freiermuth, and McBride. And I do know why Taysom is listed so highly. I mean, they may not have wide receivers. So it might be the Taysom Hill and
Shaheed.
Yeah, it might be the Taysom and Kamara show.
Well, that's what I said last week. If Olave and Shaheed are out, I was going to go Taysom, but he's the number 2.
Oh yeah.
He was not available to pick.
Yep. So I'm going David Njoku against the Rams at the Rams. Weather shouldn't be a factor. Lately his usage has gone up.
Do we know if it's going to be PJ Walker or do you know if DTR?
DTR hasn't made it out of protocol yet. I don't believe. So it's
probably going to be Walker.
Yeah.
So, because he's.
Well, wait. I'm trying to think. Who signed Flacco?
The Browns.
The Browns.
Yeah.
Because it's not even Cooper. PJ Walker.
Yeah. So if Flacco comes in and he's the starter this week, we'll see what he's got. But I've got Amari Cooper in my redraft league, and there was an update or what on his profile, and it said that that apparently Flacco's dropbacks and deep passes apparently are a thing of beauty, is what he said. Poetry in motion or something, which is hard to believe because Flacco's got to be what?
74?
Yeah, 76.
72.
Yeah.
72.
He's got to be what, like 42, 43, if not older?
I don't know. Is he that old?
I feel like he is.
I can't think he is. I got to believe that he's late 30s.
I
38,
feel like he's
39.
older, but
Maybe.
yeah, but yeah,
But,
I mean,
he's, I think I think Njoku would be better off with him than DTR. I'm struggling right now from a kicker perspective because I've got Hopkins and I've got Younghoe Koo.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily like Atlanta. Well, I mean, like last week, they had a 50-yard or so field goal and they bypassed it for on fourth down, 4th and 3 or 4th and 4 to go for it.
Yeah.
And I'm already down 19 points to a kicker. My best bet is if, Hopkins, if the defense, if the offense isn't quite good enough and puts him into position, to go get more points out of that.
I was in the same position with Hopkins because he's the number one fantasy kicker this season so far, and with losing, Deshaun Watson, Hopkins had really good weeks without Deshaun there.
Right.
But yeah, I was just looking through the waiver wire free agency list in the redraft, and Sanders from Miami was there, and I
that's
just
what you
pulled
had
the
said.
trigger. So yeah, just didn't want to. Could blow up in my face, could not. Kickers are, usually at least average. Hopefully you get like 6-7 points on the high end. You get those 19 out of Aubrey or 16 in our league, for him in that case. But
right.
Yeah,
I'd be chasing field goals is what I'd be doing.
Yeah. So Njoku's, he's been good as of late. The thing with him is the profile, his athletic profile's there. He's gigantic, fast, he can super athletic, can make people miss.
Nice
can
hair.
Make those, that too. Can make people miss and make contested catch. He's just a giant person, and he's super athletic. So that's been kind of the thing, is that he hasn't lived up to his full potential yet,
right?
Which could be a system thing in Cleveland or scenery. Who knows? I don't know where he's at with contract and stuff. If he ever goes anywhere else, maybe it's it's better for him and he finally fully pops. Because like I said, with his profile, he should, his athletic profile is probably top 4 tight end in the league,
right.
But it just hasn't translated.
Right.
But I feel like this year now
Pitts,
he's really showing. He's catching the ball, he's running people over, and he's really running hard and playing hard, where you didn't really see that in the previous years. So,
right.
But yeah, he's a pretty good safety valve, especially like I said, Flacco comes in and he's the starter. And,
no matter which of the three of those guys would be throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of experience, not a lot of. With the current players and scheme and everything, Flacco has plenty of experience, not in this situation.
Yeah.
So I think that either way, you're going to rely on your tight end for a lot of catches.
True. Yep. And then I'm going, a team that you've wanted, if you were streaming tight ends this year, the best team you'd want to target, for matchup wise, is the Bengals. So I'm going to go Evan Ingram. Lawrence has been playing better, had a better week either last week or week before. Ingram, has been one of the more consistent tight ends this season. And like I said, matchup wise, it's just one of the best against Cincy, who, offensively is probably going to struggle again. So, because the Jags defense is decently solid, so I think this will end up being a good, not high scoring, but it'll be a good matchup where maybe there's a lot of offense, but not a lot of touchdowns, scored.
Right.
Could be like a 17-14 kind of thing.
Yeah, with Browning, it's hard to tell what you're going to see out of them unless Higgins is back.
Yeah.
If Higgins is back, they could, Browning could look a lot better, and
that's true.
They might move the ball better.
Yep.
So it's tough to say what type of game it's going to be. So
yeah, like I said,
I like the pick.
matchup based. It's
he
one of the better
was my
ones.
second pick.
Yeah.
I decided on Njoku. I mean, I could have gone either way with those two also. Moving on to our love 'em, flip 'em, leave 'em, and it's funny that two of the guys are the two guys that we chose, and those are wide receivers Brendan Aiyuk and Jaylen Waddle, and the other one is Justin Jefferson. And I tried to make it difficult again this week, and I think I did.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to imagine Justin Jefferson. Like we've said before, if it were any other season, simple.
Oh yeah.
But now JJ's been out for 7 weeks. They go on their bye. Who do you like?
Well, I mean, you would assume that he's coming back after. That's been being said the whole time, is that after his bye, that's when he's coming back.
So he'll be back for 14, 15, 16, and 17.
Yeah, and I've got my one dynasty league that I'm in with Nick. The fantasy playoffs start next week. So
Week 13?
Yeah.
14.
14.
14?
Yeah. So it starts a
How
little
many
early.
teams make it?
I honestly don't know. I haven't looked.
All
at
of
really.
them?
Potentially. You just get 2 buys if you're in the first place or something. So.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, if you're in that position and somehow you're lucky enough and you still are going to get into playoffs, I mean, Dobbs looked absolutely horrible last week, against Chicago.
Right.
I mean, that was a disgustingly ugly, bad game.
Yeah.
And you would assume that, that he would be just hyper targeting Jefferson when he comes back. But again, if Dobbs can't play to the level that he had been before, then yeah, Jefferson is,
I mean,
obviously at this point you can't flip him, but just playing the game,
right.
I think you would, because of the situation and the quarterback, and then coming up rest of the season, do you really want to would you leave your fantasy playoff hopes to hoping that, Dobbs, I mean, it's the same, but not really same as Jamar Chase having Browning instead of Burrow, but Jamar Chase has been healthy all season, or for the majority of the season. Right. So, I think those two guys,
he's already got a couple weeks with Browning.
Yeah.
You're talking about really no time together, and you're going to all of a sudden in 14, 15, 16, and 17, you're going to play a guy who hasn't played with a quarterback yet this year. Hasn't practiced. I mean, he might be practicing with him now.
Yep.
Versus guys like Waddle, who has been in and out of the lineup a little bit, but has been healthy of late. Or Aiyuk playing with Purdy.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you were able to still trade, I would probably flip JJ. Now the question is, who do you keep and who do you drop?
That one's tough. I mean, I think Aiyuk's ceiling is a little higher than Waddle, just because I don't think there's really, I mean, besides McCaffrey obviously being like with the rushing and the receiving, he's the number one on the offense. But for just pure receiver, I feel like Aiyuk is the number one, not by much, because they do spread it around so much.
True.
But yet again, the opportunities in that offense are so great because.
But they're also so random.
Yes.
I mean, it's like if CMC is hot, CMC is getting the ball.
Yeah.
If Mostert's hot, they're still throwing the ball. Yeah. They're getting it to Tyreek, and Tyreek always draws number one defender.
Yeah.
Number one DB. So Waddle has, in my mind, more opportunity. Like he showed last week, he didn't get into the end zone, but he still caught like 7 of 11 for 114 yards.
Yeah, correct.
So, who do you? Although, then in my mind, Aiyuk has a better chance of getting into the end zone. So I struggle with that.
Yeah, I think Waddle, his variance between his ceiling and his floor are a little closer, which is, that means more consistent, which
Right.
is kind of, you want at least one guy on your team that's consistent,
Especially going into playoffs.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about you're going into the playoffs now, which is why, and we've talked about my preference for guys that are, that are closer to, the standard deviation is much smaller. Sorry for you non-math geeks.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I want a guy who is always going to be around a number. If his number on average is a little bit lower than Aiyuk's, I'm still going to take it because I know I'm going to get, this type of performance pretty much every week.
Yeah. That's so again, tough. The three choices really tough, but
Well,
it also
would
depends.
you rather I made it JJ, who's the guy, trying to think, guy from the Jets, used to be in Green Bay, Lazard, and Cobb.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
but what I'm getting at is there's so much nuance because obviously it depends on how your team's built.
Oh, right.
Like
And
you
it
said,
also
if you
depends
had,
on what time of the what point in the season it would have been. Had we been looking at week 2, it would have been JJ. It would have been probably Waddle was going to be your flip 'em, and Aiyuk was going to be your leave 'em.
For sure. Yeah, definitely. If you were somehow, I'm sure there's teams out there, but if you had Aiyuk and Waddle, like we're talking about, the more consistent, within his, that variance of points, and then you have somebody like Aiyuk that can go for 30 or 5.
Right.
It's nice to have both of those. I mean, obviously when he gets 5,
yes.
it kills you, but when he has those huge weeks, that can make the difference of going advancing in playoffs versus not. So that's what makes stuff like this so hard.
And it also would be nice if these are like, I suppose it could happen in my 8-teamer, and those are your second and third receiver.
Oh yeah.
And you can make the decision based on where you are. If I'm down by a bunch of points, let's say they both play the 3 p.m. game, Central Time, and I'm down by a bunch of points, I'm playing Aiyuk. If I'm close, I'm playing Waddle because I don't want to take the chance that I'm not going to score the points.
Yep, correct.
Which is, the same reason why, like I said about kickers, if you're down by something, you take a look at, I was playing against a guy last week, and he was going after Thanksgiving. I was up by enough points that my recommendation to him would have been to play JJ Monday night, not knowing
if he was going to
play, because that was the only chance he had at winning.
Yeah.
So, and he didn't end up playing. His replacement scored like 4 points for the guy. So, I mean, I crushed him. Yeah. But the only chance he had was for JJ to play and JJ to have a huge game. So, in that sense, having those two guys, you might go, I'm going to play one, I'm going to play the other, based on the situation at game time.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
And that is all we've got for this week. Hope you have a great weekend. Hopefully you get to see all your football games, and listen in to the podcast, watch the video if you've got the chance. I am Ozzy,
and I'm Austin.
Have a great week.
See ya.